we're on our way to the Mull of Oa, along a twisty-turny road, and coming round the corner we saw this sign with the big letters "Open" on it. Oh, we thought, is there a cafe here? But no, it's not a cafe. It's a telephone box, which is no longer a telephone box, but a shop. So in the telephone box, it explains why it is a shop. It's the biggest shop on the Oa. But BT no longer owns the kiosk and the telephone equipment has been removed. It has been adopted by Port Ellen Primary School and is run as a social enterprise shop. It started during the first coronavirus lockdown in 2020, and through their home learning, Port Ellen Primary School pupils were tasked with coming up with an idea for the Social Enterprise Academy Dragon's Den competition. And one of the pupils won and received £100 seed funding to transform this phone box into a shop. So the profits made through this social enterprise will be donated to Port Ellen Primary School, the RSPB and the South Isle Development. So what a wonderful idea, isn't it? And some lovely things all made and printed on the island. The tea towels, cards, lino cuts, bags. Bought a golden eagle card, and maybe, just maybe, we might see one today. We are at the RSPB Car Park on Oa, where they provide picnic tables, and we have our own coffee, fortunately. And so here we are on what is now an almost deserted wilderness, but was once home to over 400 people. The first farm on Oa is Cragabus, the Norse name, so there were Norse farmsteads here, but we know there were farmers long before that, because across the road are the remains of a Neolithic chambered cairn. But what happened to the local population? Most of them ended up in Canada, assisted in their emigration by their well-meaning but ultimately uncomprehending laird. This was not a Highland clearance in the sense that people were burned out of their houses, but the effect on the native population was no less traumatic. The laird, John Ramsay of Kildalton, visited them in 1870, where they had settled on the shores of Lake Huron, Lake Simcoe and Georgian Bay. We're walking along now up to the American Monument. This area has been lived in for thousands of years, and as we're walking along we can see evidence of the ancient hill forts that would have been here. And this is a burial mound behind me. We can see the vastness and the emptiness of the Oa as we look around. Still looking across to Islay, to the western part of Islay, to Port Nahaven and Port Charlotte. Who are you, little bird? He's like a wagtail with the way his tail's going, but he's not the right colour. You are a nice little bird. These are the first birds we've seen, and this little one seems to be taking us to the monument. He's very tame. No, off he goes. His mate has gone, flew over. Now then, where are you going? Oh, walking on peaty ground up to the monument, so we can see how prominent it is on the headland here, and such a landmark for boats out at sea. The monument commemorates those lost in the sinking of the 2 US troop ships in 1918. The SS Tuscania, a requisitioned passenger ship carrying more than 2,000 servicemen, was torpedoed by a German U-boat on the 5th of February, about 11 kilometres off the coast. More than 200 American and British crew were drowned when the ship sank several hours later, some during the perilous rescue operation. This was one of the biggest losses of life in the US military since the American Civil War, and the tragedy had a big impact in the USA. Only 8 months later, disaster struck again when HMS Otranto sank at Mahir Bay, following a collision in bad weather with another troop ship. This time, more than 431 people lost their lives, including 80 British crew. The memorial was erected 2 years later by the American Red Cross. Standing more than 10 metres high on the very edge of the cliffs, it can be seen from far out to sea. Just coming from below the American Monument, we heard this rather unearthly sound, a sort of groaning and moaning, and that's the sound of the seals. I don't quite know what they're trying to say, but we couldn't see them very well, but they are on the rocks. The wind was right against us coming off the sea, but they're down there in that little bay. I stopped here because I could see this hairy caterpillar, but he's not moving, so I don't know whether that's because he's going to go into his cocoon or what. And then I looked up to see the American Monument and thought, well, how impressive, building it right at the end of the cliff there with those massive rock faces. I can't imagine how they did it. We're looking ahead to the Iron Age hill fort of Dún Atad, and beyond that the highest point on Oa. And thinking about hill forts and the American Memorial, both of them, how they were built, is very impressive to think about. We're sitting on a rest and be thankful bench at the moment, looking out for seals, but so far we've not been successful. We're nearing the end of our walk on the Mull of Oa, and this is Upper Killian Farmhouse, one of the few habited places left on Oa now. Looking at the picture of the birds where we've been, there was a meadow pipit that was leading us on, I think. Oh, but now having looking at that, no, I think it was a meadow pipit. Do you? And the one thing that we didn't see was a golden eagle. The end of our walk on the Mull of Oa is in sight, and we've really enjoyed our time on here in the beautiful countryside and trying to see the wildlife and enjoying our time.